4, Dallas and Fort Worth, the 10 o'clock news with Chip Moody, Clarice Tinsley, Wayne Shattuck, and Dale Hansen.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. Well, it's become almost a daily occurrence, a new development about Braniff International Airlines. The latest, the chairman of the board has resigned to take a job at Pan American Airways, another financially ailing airline. Tonight, Channel 4's Kelly Lane explains the resignation and the impact it might have on Braniff and its investors.
It was less than 1 year ago, John Casey promoted to chairman of the board of Braniff Airlines. And now, just months later, he's making a move to Pan Am. His temporary replacement as chairman will be Howard Putnam, the current president of Braniff. He was hired by Casey as part of a reorganization plan to get Braniff back on its feet financially.
He was the elder statesman, very helpful as an advisor, but he loves to have his hands in the operation. And I think he was getting itchy. So I don't think it was unusual at all for him to go.
So how will Casey's departure affect Braniff? Well, if Wall Street is any indication, not very much. Braniff was trading at $2 a share at the start of the day and $2 a share at the end of the day.
John Casey's departure was announced about 30 minutes before the market closed. The stock continued to trade pretty quietly, closed at $2 a share where it opened this morning. So Wall Street apparently greeted it as not a major news event.
At least as far as Braniff and its employees are hoping, not a major bad news event. They need to keep the passengers and the banks on their side.
The resignation of a top executive may have little effect on the future of Braniff. What will have an effect is this: people lining up to book seats on the airline. Kelly Lane, Channel 4 News at DFW Airport. Soviet President Leonid Brezhnev today threatened the United States if it employed new missiles in Europe. And the Russian leader called for the U.S. to join a moratorium on nuclear missiles aimed at Europe. Appearing before a Congress of trade unionists at the Kremlin, President Brezhnev declared that the Soviet Union was halting the deployment of all medium-range nuclear missiles in the European part of the Soviet Union. Brezhnev said that his country wanted to set a good example. His speech also contained a threat. If the Americans employ their new missiles in Europe, the Soviet Union will, quote, take retaliatory steps that would put the U.S. itself, its own territory, in an analogous position. Diplomats in Moscow say Brezhnev's language reminded them of the 1962 missile crisis. U.S. Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger earlier today scoffed at that Soviet proposal.
The Defense Secretary was speaking in San Antonio at a convention of newspaper editors. Weinberger told the group that Brezhnev's announcement was designed to gain support from peace movements in Europe. And the Secretary explained the Soviet message as he heard it.
Why don't we leave everything the way it is? We'll have a moratorium or a freeze. We won't put in any more, and that'll be all right. And the response to that is, of course, that the present score is something like 300. It was about 285 2 weeks ago. It's now 300 to nothing in intermediate-range nuclear weapons in Europe. So a moratorium or a freeze isn't very satisfactory.
Weinberger accused the Soviet Union of trying to head off plans by NATO to begin deploying its own deterrent force of U.S.-made missiles in 1983. Meanwhile, Senator John Coward of Texas, head of the powerful Senate Armed Services Committee, says tonight the idea of a missile freeze is just a rehash of old Soviet proposals.
A Madison Avenue approach to very serious business. It's repackaging simply of old Soviet proposals. The whole idea is to freeze us into a position of inferiority and to preserve the current nuclear imbalance in Europe and globally.
Earlier today, the Oklahoma legislature became the unexpected forum for President Reagan to respond to the idea of a missile freeze. From Oklahoma City, Channel 4's Quinn Matthews reports.
President Reagan rejected the Soviet offer in a speech in Oklahoma City. The president went before a joint session of the Oklahoma legislature and said a freeze on missile deployment in Europe isn't enough.
To preserve peace, to ensure it for the future, we must not just freeze the production of nuclear arms. We must reduce the exorbitant level that already exists. A freeze simply isn't good enough.
Oklahoma was President Reagan's third stop as he traveled to seek support for his budget and new federalism proposals. He got a warm reception from the Democratic legislature and Governor George Nye, a Democrat. But outside the Capitol building, pro-Reagan demonstrators were far outnumbered by hundreds of anti-Reagan protesters. And the presidential motorcade was booed as it traveled across town. However, the president left knowing he has a lot of support in Oklahoma.
This is a prosperous, energy-rich state. Like Texas, it's traditionally Democratic, but President Reagan is popular here. He carried the state in 1980 and is counting on the state's support as he faces the continuing budget battle in Congress. Quinn Matthews, Channel 4 News, Oklahoma City.
And back here in Texas, about 100 determined farm workers are marching a total of 50 miles in 6 days to underscore their demand to be paid the minimum hourly wage. The workers, mostly in and around the Rio Grande Valley, charge that growers pay them an average of $2.45 an hour, 90 cents below the federally set minimum wage. The marchers left Brownsville today and will be joined Sunday in San Juan by another group from La Jolla. Farm Labor leader Cesar Chavez proclaimed the marches only the beginning of organized protests in Texas, which may eventually include a boycott by the workers. And still coming up on the 10 o'clock news, part one of a special Channel 4 series on the future of Matagorda Island.
Plus, in the Dallas community of Kleberg tonight, parents turn out to plot the future of their neighborhood school. Stay with us.
Moving to Chicago.
We need to sell our house here. We need to buy a house there.
We'll need a miracle.
One miracle coming up.
We're taking off our jackets.
Across the country, count on our VIP referral service.
Rolling up our sleeves.
To make moving easier.
Putting the strength of number one behind you.
We find homes.
We sell homes.
We're number one.
America's number one top seller. Century 21.
When you're trying to get up a hill and you've got 10 tons of steel staring you in the face, that's when you really need Gulf Super Unleaded, the gas with guts. It's one of the highest octane unleaded gasolines you can buy to help make sure you can pass, climb, and accelerate. Gulf Super Unleaded, the gas with guts. Make sure that Gulf is with you.
This is the world of Estee Lauder, filled with glamorous times. And now she has a free gift for you. A whole beauty collection, including white linen parfum spray, the fragrance the Estee Lauder woman is wearing. This $20 value is your free gift with any Estee Lauder purchase of $7.50 or more. How great to have Estee Lauder treat you to Estee Lauder. Your Estee Lauder gift is available through March 20th at Neiman Marcus.
Matagorda Island on the South Texas Gulf Coast has become the focus now of a nationwide controversy over exactly how far this country should go in protecting wildlife and the environment.
The state of Texas wants the island for a recreation park, but Matagorda is part of the winter home for the nearly extinct whooping crane, and environmentalists fear the transfer would hasten the day the cranes no longer exist. Channel 4's Vicki Monks tonight takes a look at the controversy in this first of a four-part report on Matagorda, an island in a storm.
From the air, Matagorda Island looks more like a desolate wasteland than the kind of island paradise that could spark a bitter battle over ownership. But the issue of who should own and manage Matagorda Island has generated a passionate conflict between environmentalists and advocates of states' rights. The island is a national wildlife refuge and is part of the winter home for the endangered whooping crane. But now, Texas wants control of Matagorda. It's all part of what's called the Sagebrush Rebellion. Western states think the federal government owns too darn much land, and they want some of it back. The old lighthouse and other landmarks on the northern end of Matagorda are historically significant for Texas. Since the island is part of our Texas heritage, a lot of Texans reason the state ought to own the property instead of the federal government.
My inclination and preferred option would be to to make those lands available to the state of Texas so that recreation opportunities can be made available to the citizens.
U.S. Secretary of the Interior James Watt has been happy to accommodate the state, but this proposed transfer has pitched up a storm of protest from environmentalists, birdwatchers, and some congressmen. And Matagorda Island has become the symbol of the struggle between people who want to keep wild areas wild and James Watt, who favors development of public land. Because Matagorda is critical habitat for whooping cranes, as well as other endangered species, environmentalists fear if Watt can give this island away, he won't stop at anything.
He's indicated, even without the whooping crane issue, that there's hardly any sacredness to America's environmental holdings that he won't touch.
Most of the whooping cranes winter along the edge of the Aransas Wildlife Refuge across the bay from Matagorda. As the flock expands, the cranes are moving up the marsh side of the island. Texas owns that marsh now. What the state wants is 19,000 acres of solid land owned by the federal government. Texas wants to put in recreation facilities, and the marsh it owns now is too soggy for that. The case has attracted national and even international attention because the rescue of the whooping cranes from the brink of extinction is one of America's most famous conservation successes. In 1937, there were only 15 whooping cranes left in the entire world. After a lot of hard work and millions of dollars from both government and private sources, there are now 73 whoopers wintering in the Aransas Refuge. The cranes died off originally because their habitat was taken for farmland and development. If their last remaining bits of habitat aren't protected, biologists fear the cranes may be lost forever. But what does it matter whether whooping cranes survive or not? We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Vicki Monks, Channel 4 News, Matagorda Island.
And back here at home, police in Arlington tonight have a rather mysterious case on their hands. A 13-year-old girl who says her name is Janie Tyler is in Arlington Memorial Hospital. She was found by police on an Arlington street corner, apparently suffering an epileptic seizure. The young girl, a deaf mute, could only tell police her name. That name, once again, Janie Tyler. Well, now authorities are trying to find her parents. Anybody with any information should call the Arlington Police Department. Police?
Tonight in southeast Dallas County, in the former town of Kleberg, an emotional and controversial issue has been settled, at least for the time being. Residents there had been divided over whether Kleberg School should be closed, with its students bused to Riley School, about 3 miles away. This evening, by a vote of 140 to 31, Kleberg parents voted to keep their children in Kleberg School. Basically, the battle line was drawn between parents who have faith in the Dallas Independent School District and parents who don't have as much faith in the DISD.
Kleberg was built in 1910, and in addition to being old, the school is also overcrowded. About 400 students in grades K through 6 attend Kleberg. There are about 10 portable units on the playground used as classrooms. The original facility has neither central heating nor air conditioning, and for these reasons, School Superintendent Linus Wright suggested Kleberg be used as a possible community center with the students bused to Riley. Both the pro-move and anti-move groups want a new Kleberg school. They point to the fact that in 1976, a bond election passed that would have allotted money for a new school, but the economy tightened up and the DISD ran out of money. Those against the move feared that if they abandoned the current school, they'd lose their bargaining power and a new school would never be built. They were also afraid the loss of a neighborhood school would hurt Kleberg's growth.
We will never grow without a neighborhood school. While our property depreciates, our school taxes increase, we still don't have schools. After 19 years, our children should not have to take second base.
Those on the side that lost tonight still view Riley as a safer, larger, and better alternative to Kleberg.
If we go to Riley, let's let the kids have a good place to go with air conditioning, whatever the facilities, and go and camp on DISD's door until they give us what we really want.
Superintendent Linus Wright said the choice was up to the parents and that he would accept their choice. Even though the parents have voted to stay in Kleberg, they may in all likelihood be faced with overcrowding that grows. And the DISD may still be faced with strained relations from parents who still want a new Kleberg school for their children.
Rather tough situation. Okay, just ahead on Channel 4 News, we'll check in with a fellow by the name of Wayne Shattuck.
We'll take a look ahead to the weekend forecast. And we'll show you what President Reagan found during his tour of flood areas in Indiana. Stand by.
Touch it. Touch it.
I love it. It smells great.
It's Touch of Scent. Not just another room deodorizer, but an exciting new idea in air fresheners. Touch of Scent is always at your fingertips, whenever you need it. Touch of Scent's decorative dispenser looks beautiful in every room of your home and is easily refillable with your choice of 4 delightful fragrances. Another fine product from Scott's Liquid Gold. Touch of Scent.
Touch it.
Big D looks first to the sign of the D. Dallas County Chevy dealers.
There's never been a truck like Chevy's new S10. A truck with higher gas mileage ratings than any of the best-selling import trucks. A bigger payload than many full-size pickups. And the S10 is here, now, in big supply, at your Dallas County Chevy dealer. Get one.
Big D looks first to the sign of the D. Dallas County Chevy dealers.
Well, Dolly the Desk Doctor. Finger has every desk on sale, 25 to 50% off this week. Don't we, Dolly? Every executive desk, secretarial desk, every desk, 25 to 50% off. And nobody has more desk and office furniture to rent, lease, or buy than Finger. Do they, Dolly? Right now, every desk at Finger office furniture, 25 to 50% off.
There are times that are meant to be shared. That's why Eckerd gives you twice the price on Kodak paper for a good look. One to keep and one to share. And you don't pay for the prints you don't like. And when you bring your film to Eckerd Drugs for processing, we give you 2 new rolls of Kodak film for the price of 1. Twice the film, twice the prints. After all, if one picture is worth 1,000 words, think what 2 are worth. Got the picture? You're going to like Eckerd. We're going to make sure.
The Central American country of Nicaragua tonight is under a full military alert. Today, the government there declared a state of emergency throughout Nicaragua because of what it claims are, quote, plans for aggression by the United States. The military alert means suspension of some basic constitutional rights for 30 days. Nicaraguans are now being urged to prepare for war. Newspapers in Managua, the capital, are being censored and all editorial opinion being silenced.
President Reagan is back at the White House tonight after a helicopter tour of flood-ravaged Indiana. The president met with some youngsters who were stacking sandbags in Fort Wayne, and he even pitched in for himself a while. Mr. Reagan surveyed the damage and told one woman there's going to be a lot of prayers said on your behalf before this is over. Federal assistance for flood victims in 3 Midwest states has been assured by the White House. And our neighbors to the north, Oklahomans tonight, are clearing away rubble from another kind of natural disaster, a series of tornadoes which hit the state last night. 1 man died in his trailer park. 5 others were killed by twisters in Kansas and Missouri. Scores of residents were left homeless.
And here in North Texas, a couple of very few isolated thunderstorms around the area today, but there wasn't, not much to speak of, I suppose.
Well, we didn't get any damaging effects out of that. There was some marble-sized hail in a few spots in North Texas, but it was limited in scope across the state, and it's almost completely gone right now, the precipitation. We can show you a little bit. It's in the extreme northeastern part of the state. You can see right in here. This is well above Longview, and then also extending in the southwestern parts of Arkansas, northwestern sections of Louisiana. This is moving off to the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. It's a long ways away from Dallas-Fort Worth, and it is continuing to move farther and farther away from us right now. Let's take a look at our current conditions. We have fair skies and 70 degrees. Our humidity, 90%. The winds are out of the south at 9 miles per hour. The barometric pressure, 2.985 and rising. Our early morning low is 60 degrees, got to 81 for a high today. And officially, at DFW Airport, no precipitation in the past 24 hours. However, I know that parts of the Metroplex and parts of North Texas did get some shower and thunderstorm activity today. Our pollution index out of Fort Worth, 63 today. That's in the moderate range. For Dallas, in the good range, 43. I'm sorry, look at this pollen count total. For the second day in a row, way over 2,000. It was 2774. Now, our temperatures across the state tonight are generally very mild. For the most part, in the 60s and the 70s. It's a little bit cooler up at Amarillo, 50 degrees there. And Brownsville, Texas today hit a record high of 91 degrees. Never before on this date were they that warm. It's in the 60s even in far west Texas tonight. And here's the entire weather map. That cold front that was moving across Texas today, it's stalled out now, sitting from east to south sections of the state. Still kicking off a little bit of shower activity that we showed you on the radar, but that's about it. Elsewhere, it is generally dry. Most of the cloudiness in the eastern part of the state. Some very heavy fog now in the upper coast around Galveston. For the remainder of tonight and early morning hours tomorrow, there are travelers' advisories because of fog. They have been posted. Rain is falling throughout much of the southwest, California, parts of Nevada, southern sections of Utah, also western parts of Oregon, even a little bit of rain in western sections of Nebraska. Snow falling around Redmond, Oregon, also from around Salt Lake City up to Cutbank, Montana, north central sections of North Dakota. Then more snow in the upper Great Lakes, a band of freezing rain just below the snow and below the freezing rain. There's cold rain from Michigan down into southern New England and then down through Appalachia into the eastern parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, our temperatures are still very, very mild across the country tonight, including the Ohio Valley. And that will intensify the problems with the flooding that there is still being reported in parts of the Ohio Valley. 60 degrees right now at Cincinnati. As you can see, the areas that are at or below freezing, very limited across the country tonight. Our forecast, these are the expected highs for tomorrow. We're also expecting rain from the southern Rockies through the Intermountain West down into the southwest. Texas and much of the central part of the country will be dry. We'll have a band of snow from northern Iowa right up into the Great Lakes. Below that, some rain, more rain from the Ohio Valley all the way down into the northern sections of Florida. So here's our forecast. Tonight, mostly fair. Southerly winds 7 to 15 and a low of 58. Tomorrow, fair to partly cloudy. Westerly winds brisk up to 20 and 82 for a high. Then on Thursday, it'll be partly cloudy, 79. Friday will be partly cloudy, 75. Look what happens on Saturday. Lots of clouds, chance of thunderstorms, much cooler, about 64 for a high on that day.
Okay, partly cloudy, warm, and windy
for the next few days. All right.
Tonight in sports, Tim Healy has the story of a discontented Texas Ranger. Plus, some good news tonight for Georgia football fans. Stay with us.
At American Airlines, we know that a fast trip through the airport is the best trip through the airport. That's why...
One-stop check-in to save you time.
And something more. Round-trip and connecting boarding passes. And reserve seating in advance. We're giving our best. We're American Airlines. Doing what we do best.
Hey out there, talk, blah, blah, blah.
There's one radio station that gives you more #1 stereo music than any other station in Dallas-Fort Worth. KAFM, Stereo 92, playing more of your favorite songs from the 60s, 70s, and today. More than any other station under the sun. KAFM, Stereo 92. We're playing one of your favorite songs right now.
Now at Weir's, this beautiful curio cabinet, interior light, mirror back glass shelves. While they last, only $178. Another eye-opener special from Weir's.
Blue Nun, the delicious imported premium white wine.
Tonight, we've got one special person out there. Everybody's special, but Dale Hansen's on the sick list, so we dedicate the sports to you tonight, Dale.
Caught the flu in Florida, I guess.
Can you believe that?
Huh? No, I really don't.
Too much sun, I think, huh?
We shall see. But we got some good news for some Georgia alumni in this area because, yes, Herschel Walker will stay in college and play football for the Bulldogs in '82. But no, Walker does not rule out the possibility he may try to turn pro before his college days are over. Walker has been thinking about challenging the rule which prohibits NFL teams from drafting underclassmen. However, the man who rushed for 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns in 2 years at Georgia announced today that he will remain a Bulldog, at least for one more year.
I said I could play it in pro football league, and I still think I can play in that league, but then if you really don't know whether you want to do it or not, you always got a question in your mind. I don't think I'm really prepared yet. I don't think I'm prepared mentally to play in the NFL at this time.
You catch the neck on that fella. One other football note this evening. A key member of Danny Reeves' Denver Broncos has called it quit. Veteran Bronco wide receiver Haven Moses today announcing his retirement after 14 years in the NFL. NBA tonight, the San Antonio Spurs in the dark playing at New York. Big night for the Spurs. This fella, Mike Mitchell, 33 points for San Antonio, while the Iceman, George Gervin, matched that with 33 of his own. Coming up, you see Johnny Moore, the former University of Texas product, driving the lane for two, while the Iceman gets two more from the baseline. Easy night for the Spurs as they bombed the Knicks this evening, 114-91. Elsewhere in the NBA scoreboard, 37 for Dennis Johnson. Phoenix beats the Rockets. Boston wins its 12th in a row, 98-97 over the Bullets in overtime. Milwaukee belts the Sixers. Indiana surprises Seattle. 27 for Isaiah, 26 for Kelly Tripucka as the Pistons beat San Diego. Denver leads Utah in the third quarter. L.A. leads Portland early. A couple of unknowns played big roles in the Rangers' 5-2 exhibition win over the Yankees today in Pompano. Rookies Nick Capra and George Wright combined for 6 hits and 3 RBIs, while non-roster pitcher Walt Terrell picked up the victory. For a long time now, you've been hearing rumors the Rangers might trade this man, Al Oliver. Well, now Oliver's saying that would be fine with him. In fact, he wants to be traded. Oliver has 4 years left and a contract paying about $320,000 per. Big dough for you and me, not so big dough for a major league hitter with Oliver's credentials. To regain some of the money he figures he's losing, Oliver wants his contract extended, but the Rangers don't usually do that. And if they don't in this case, Oliver is saying, let me go swing somewhere else. Also, there's a man in Baltimore, this fellow, who'll be on the hot seat at the hot corner this summer. He's Cal Ripken Jr., who after years of minor league stardom takes over this year as the Oriole third baseman, succeeding the great Brooks Robinson and Doug DeCinces.
I'm looking forward to it from the standpoint that I don't have to come out here and really, win a job, because in spring training, every level I've been, I've stepped up a level at a time, and I knew I was going to play at that level. And I just went about spring training getting just ready for the very first game, opening season. And I'd like to do that same thing here. It'd be a lot easier on me.
Of course, the rumor floating around, Clarice, is that Dale is really out because he got a little weak due to an exhausting game of shuffleboard.
I heard that, too.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
I read it on the wire just a few minutes ago.
Come on, slow down, guys. A short break here, and we'll be back with the final story in just a minute.
The 5th season at Oaklawn is off and running, and one of its most exciting traditions is the Racing Festival of the South. It's the culmination of a season of quality racing, the finest thoroughbreds, the best facilities, the greatest celebration. The Racing Festival of the South begins April 3rd, but why wait till then? Come now and get in the spirit of things. Oaklawn, traditionally yours since 1904.
Relaxing music all the time. FM 105, Coast, KOAX.
What's your mileage? Grow with a Weeco. Introducing a Weeco mileage extender, proven to increase miles per gallon an average of 15%. For typical drivers, that's 1,500 extra miles a year. It really works. What's your mileage? Grow with a Weeco.
Available at Safeway, Page Drugs, and Tom Thumb Page Food and Drug Centers. You're looking at the place you ought to be if you love oysters, because at Captain D's, the oysters have arrived. Lots and lots of oysters. So the captain has put together the Oyster Feast just for you. Tender, juicy oysters lightly batter fried, crisp French fries, fresh creamy coleslaw, and 2 Southern-style hush puppies. You get all this great food at an honest value. Captain D's Oyster Feast. If you love great oysters, come and get them like you like it.
And finally tonight, a pat on the back for Clarice, winner of the Texas Public Health Association's annual award for Media Excellence. Clarice was judged the winner for her special report last fall on home hospice care for terminally ill patients. That report illustrated how terminally ill patients are able to live their final days as fully as possible at home with their families. And we saw exactly how hospice programs are working in Fort Worth, Denton, and Dallas. So, job well done, partner.
Thank you.
Okay. On that note, time for us to wrap up tonight's 10 o'clock news. Pleasant weather ahead, partly cloudy, warm, and a bit windy for the next few days.
So now for Chip, Wayne, and Dale, who's under the weather, and Tim Healy, I'm Clarice Tinsley. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night. Good night.